Hi guys, I'm just recording a game I had the other day against Teranos. He's a fairly competitive player, and we have a pretty good pairing for decks, so they made for some good games. I'm just going to periodically check my volume while I'm playing the game. I've been having a problem with my speakers lately, or my microphone rather. Okay, so Teranos is playing the Mimeoplasm, and I'm playing Varolz. So first off, my opening hand, it was just borderline keepable. MTGO just recently made a change where the first player who goes doesn't draw, so it's more in line with real life rules or paper rules. So you really have to be happy with sort of the first hand, or you go down to 6 and not 7. So it was borderline keepable. I had Soul Ring. Soul Ring, of course, is a great card and broken in the format. However, with Varolz, it doesn't have the sort of punch that it would have with Mimeoplasm or Krenko or Grand Arbiter. I also didn't have immediate access to black. Of course, I have Crop Rotation, which can get Bajuka Bog, or a black source, but it's. I'm not going to say it's a little slower. I would have liked to use Crop Rotation in this game, for example, for Bajuka Bog, but we'll see how it plays out. The real things that I'm happy about in this keep are Entomb and Abrupt Decay. So Abrupt Decay is just for his Soul Ring or Mana Crypt, and then Entomb I can get Life from the Loam and sort of start a combo. Anyways, let's keep playing here. So I drop turn 1 Soul Ring. Oh. He goes Chrome Mox, Forest, and then he drops Hermit Druid. Now, this is the first time I've ever played Teranos' Mimeoplasm deck that I can remember. Teranos is a hyper-competitive player, so I see Hermit Druid, and I know that there is a very good chance that he can combo off next turn. Now, all you have to do is drop Lab the Maniac, and let's say a Mana Crypt, and then use Hermit Druid's ability and basically just put your entire library into your graveyard. Saying that, he played a Forest on his first turn, so I mean that could very well be the only Forest in his deck. That's probably not the case. However, I don't have the luxury to play it loose in this game. I've got to play it safe. So I do. I take the safe route, and I Forest, Crop Rotation into Bayou, and I take out his Hermit Druid with Abrupt Decay. It may seem like a little aggressive, but on his turn, he drops Soul Ring. So if instead of this Bazaar of Baghdad, he put down, I don't know, a black mana, tapped it to put Soul Ring down, tap Soul Ring and Chrome Mox to put Lab Maniac down, and then use Hermit Druid's ability with Forest to put his entire deck into his graveyard, I would have been SOL. I would have lost the game on turn 2. So I had to take out Hermit Druid. Unfortunately, he has a little bit of tempo going here. He managed to put Life from the Loam into his graveyard with Bazaar of Baghdad. So that's a pretty nice combo. Anyways, it goes to my turn, and now I'm worrying a little bit because not only does he have a mana parity with me, but he's actually filtering his library every turn by 3 cards, which isn't bad. Oh, I keep on pressing OK. So I get Putrefy here. And I decide to use it on his blue mana source. This is, well, for 2 reasons, to slow him down. I know he has Life from the Loam in his graveyard, but I didn't want him to get too ahead of the game before I could use Ad Nauseam. I was hoping to draw an extra land here, but Putrefy worked just fine. So he used Life from the Loam, of course, gets back a land, puts 3 in his graveyard, and then he puts another. Well, it does Life from the Loam again. So already, I don't see any other basics in his graveyard. So maybe the Hermit Druid was a good play. I don't know. I do see, however, Lord of Extinction and my General Volraz. So Lord of Extinction is a pretty common combo in Mimeoplasm decks. You go Skithiryx, Lord of Extinction, and then Skithiryx is the size of all the cards in people's graveyards. So it's just a big fatty. It really only needs to be 10 or I guess 6 cards in this graveyards because Skithiryx is already a 4, and then it has haste. But next turn, for example, he could put let's see. He could put no, 1 second. Let's say if he had Mana Crypt, he would have to have Mana Crypt. He would have to put Mana Crypt down. No, he couldn't do it. Never mind. He would have to have 2 sources of black. So maybe a Swamp, Dark Ritual, Bazaar of Baghdad, Skithiryx into his grave, and then Mimeoplasm, Skithiryx, and Lord of Extinction. It's difficult, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, especially for Mimeoplasm. Sometimes Mimeoplasm, when it's built properly, it can be super, super fast, and there are many combos you can pull with it. So on my turn, I just find a land. So I say go. So this is it. He draws 2 cards, then discards 3 cards. He puts Consecrated Sphinx and Trick Bind into his graveyard, and then 3 more lands. Still no more basics. So the longer I go through this game, the more certain I am with my play to take out Hermit Druid real quick. And I should also mention that not only does Hermit Druid work with the Lab Maniac combo, but it's also a really good engine for Mimeoplasm in the first place. So even if he didn't have that combo, I was still happy with the play that I made. Anyways, he Loams again, which with Bazaar of Baghdad doesn't hurt him in any way. He still gets his draws. And he has fodder to throw away to Bazaar of Baghdad. Nice little synergy there. And he does nothing with his last 2 mana yet. So on his end turn, I of course add Ad Nauseam. And I have 3 cards in my hand. So I'll just show you what I go to. First thing I draw is Sylvan Library, which is pretty important. So what I'm looking for here is a Bojuka Bog, because he has some pretty nice things in his graveyard, and I want to just cut his ability to combo off on the next turn. At least I'm going to get him to wait a few turns for the privilege of comboing off, or make it harder for him, so he has to use Bazaar of Baghdad again to actually get value out of Mimeoplasm. Alright, so let's keep going. Okay, so I end up going to 9 life and I draw 19 cards. Not bad for 5 mana. The last card I drew was Hatred. Not too bad, but not fantastic. And then I'll show you some of the good stuff that I do next turn. So on my turn, I didn't draw a Bojuka Bog, so I do the next best thing, and that is Sylvan Library for Bojuka Bog. I used Dark Ritual just to up my mana, and then I Mind Twist his 4 cards in his hand, and he correctly uses Bojuka Bog right away to nail, or sorry, Crop Rotation to Bojuka Bog to nail my graveyard. But I do get 4 cards from his hand, so that's when he used Crop Rotation, and because Bojuka Bog had next to little effect on my graveyard. Maybe if I were him, I would have kept that. Saying that, he did have all the land in his hand just because of the Life from the Loam. Anyways, I Bojuka Bog it away. The nice thing about Volraz as a general is that although he does use the graveyard as a resource, he uses it at instant speed. So sorcery speed effects like Bojuka Bog really don't affect Volraz in a big way. I'll go more into that later, but usually you just have something in the graveyard for like literally 2 triggers. Okay, so I take away his graveyard. So now he has 1 card in his hand. He has Bazaar of Baghdad. I believe I've severely limited his ability to win the game in a combo within the next couple of turns, and I've also drawn some pretty nice things on my own. He just goes for land. So when I made my discards here, I tried to discard a bunch of lands. I kept some key lands. I kept one key land, Inkmoth Nexus, because it has an effect. And I tried to limit the amount of creatures that I put in my graveyard because I didn't want them to Mimeoplasm them and just get value out of my graveyard. I shouldn't have put Entombment there. That was a mistake. But that was, I don't know, that was a mistake. So on his turn, he puts 3 cards in his graveyard, 3 lands, and plays Prophet. He has no cards in his hand, so it's not the game ender that it would be in quite a few games. So I still can't go off on my turn. Let me see. No, I couldn't have gone off on my turn because I needed at least one more combo piece for Varolz to get big. I do put down my Infect land, and then I put down my Elf. I Beast Within his Prophet. Sorry, just one second. I think I'm lagging a little bit. Okay, I Beast Within his Prophet. He uses Bazaar of Baghdad to put Brawn in his graveyard, and then I play my General. I play my General after I had the Elves out because if he has any way to kill Varolz, I can put a Regeneration Shield. If he draws a sack spell, then I can sack the Elves. So it's just protection for Varolz. And I should also mention that when I did all my discards, I declined to put Thrune in the graveyard because that would have been a perfect target for Mimeoplasm. Anyways. Okay, so he puts Mimeoplasm down, makes it a Prophet with the power of an Elf, I believe. Yep, he took my Elf from my graveyard, and then he doesn't attack. So he has 1 card in his hand, and he didn't use Bazaar of Baghdad. I'm, at this point, feeling pretty confident. I have World Tutor in my hand, so I can get one of my combo pieces. I'll show you what happens. So, a Worldly Tutor. And he mana drains it. Out of all the cards he could have had in his hand. I even kept him to 2 Arc out in my hand, just in case I can get rid of anything that he decided to keep. So that's too bad. It's not the end of the world, though. It just slows me down for another turn. So here, I put down Fauna Shaman. And then I put down Dark Confidant. The thing about Dark Confidant is, although I have 9 life, nothing in my... Well, I have a couple things in my deck that cost more than 9 life, but I'm planning to kill Dark Confidant before my turn anyways by just putting a regen shield on Varolz. Basically, Dark Confidant is there just as insurance. He has no long-term plans in this game because, quite honestly, this game shouldn't last long either. Teranos is going to win or I'm going to win. Alright, so we'll see what happens. So, draws 2 cards, discards 2 cards. Pretty good stuff in there. He gets 1 mana on his upkeep. He uses Bazaar of Baghdad to draw 2 cards, discard 3 cards. And now he has nothing in his hand. So he attacks. I block with Dark Confidant, and then I sack him to put a regen shield on Varolz. The thinking behind that was I wanted to prevent the damage from his commander because I'm pretty low. But I totally forgot that he had Brawn in his graveyard, so they just trample through, no big deal. So, no cards in his hand. I use Fauna Shaman's ability to put Brawn in my graveyard. Find Phyrexian Dreadnought. This card costs 1 mana, colorless mana, and you can basically sack it when it enters the battlefield. So I tend to go for this because it's colorless mana and I don't have the mana fix as much. I could have also gone for Death Shadow, which is a little, like 1, it would have been 1 bigger, but there's really no point because I'm planning to kill him with Infect this turn on my land. I'll just show you that real quick. So I go for the Phyrexian Dreadnought, I cast it, it dies, I make Inkmoth Nexus a guy, I use Varolz's ability on it to make it a big Infect guy, and then I have Lethal and Teranos Conceit. Alright, game 2. Alright, so So in game 2, I have a pretty good hand, I feel. I have Disruption in the form of Putrefy and Inquisition. I also have Bojuka Bog to hurt some of his later plans if he starts to combo early. So I'm pretty happy with this keep. He plays land. I put Mana Confluence down and Inquisition him. I'll just show you his hand real quick. It's pretty good. So he has Mana Drain, Eternal Witness, Sylvan Library, and Snapcaster. I know he's going to drop Sylvan Library next turn, but I decided to take the Mana Drain. In retrospect, I'll just tell you right now, this goes to game 3. I don't win this game. In retrospect, I probably should have taken the Sylvan Library, because I think in this game he draws, I'm going to say 6, probably 8 cards off it. What's 8 times 4? No, probably 6 cards off it. Anyways, I take Mana Drain. I say go. So he, of course, puts down Sylvan Library, which is the right play. For me, I just put down Plague Stinger, not only as a target for him, but so I can scavenge something onto it a little later. So he correctly takes 8 life and then puts down Exploration. There are many reasons to take 8 life with Sylvan Library out. Maybe you have a way to shuffle your library. That's the only way I can think of not taking 8 life, or you have low life. But the thing is, if you don't like the 2 things on top, you're just going to draw them next turn. So you may as well take the life and have them in your hand. Mimeoplasm, if he overloads his hand, he could just discard things for free. Of course, with Exploration out, he's almost guaranteed 2 land drops a turn. So the mana parity is not there, unfortunately. So he puts 2 lands down, of course, and then drops Green Sun's Zenith for 1. So Deathrite Shaman, I couldn't imagine a better thing to tutor for. I have to deal with this right away because Varolz does use his graveyard, but at instant speed. So if I put one of the big fatties that I need to win, he'll just exile it right away. So he's given me, he's asked a very good question, and I have to come up with an answer, unfortunately, right away. The reason I say right away is because on his next turn, with Sylvan Library, it's pretty likely that he'll hit another island. I mean, he gets 3 draws, and he has all the fetch lands. So if he gets another island, he can Snapcaster Mana Drain, and then try to deal with whatever late game thing I try to use to get rid of Deathrite Shaman. So I decided the best play is just to try to get rid of it right away. And I do. Attack for 1 Infect. He draws another 8 cards, of course, and he puts Death Shadow in his graveyard. That's the card that I just showed you last game. It's 13, and it basically dies when it enters the battlefield. So this is a combo piece with Mimeoplasm. If he gets Skithiryx in his graveyard, and then he puts the counters from this on it, it's game over for me. Okay, so I just draw a land. Not too happy to see that because I already have too many lands in my hand. I put my elf out. And then I use Eternal Witness on Putrefy, thinking I might need the instant speed removal for something that he does. He plays Vendilion Click, so not only does he get Putrefy out of my hand, but he has an effective blocker for my Infect guy. But I drew Hatred, which is pretty nice. Takes 8 life again, of course, and on my turn he entombs. I probably would have done that at the end of my turn, just because he doesn't know that I have something like Bojuka Bog in my hand. Saying that, oh no, sorry, he does know I have Bojuka Bog because he looked at it, so that was probably intentional. He was probably baiting me out. I'll show you what happens. I do Bojuka Bog, and then he Trick Binds it. So he counters Bojuka Bog's ability to exile his graveyard. Now this is where I massively misplay. I'm convinced that this lost me the game. Instead of playing Hatred on Eternal Witness and making it a 15-1, I just play my General. And of course, I already see the combo in his graveyard, and after I play Varolz, I immediately regret it. Just attack him. He goes down to literally 1 life. Plays Mimeoplasm on Skithiryx, makes it big, and hits me for Infect. That's that game. Wasn't too happy at the end of that game, just because of my misplay, not because he beat me. He's a great player. Okay, so game 3. So So I think game 3 just shows, I guess, what Varolz wants to do. Pretty fast. I get to go first. Don't draw a card, and I just play a swamp and say go. Now the reason I don't drop Death Shadow is because when I drop that, I'm making my intentions clear on what I want to do with Varolz. I'm also giving him, I don't know, 3 or 4 turns that it takes to get my combo off to find an answer for Death Shadow. And any well-constructed commander deck should be able to find an answer in those amount of turns, or present their own significant threat. So he drops Bazaar of Baghdad, and nothing I can do about that. So I put Plague Stinger out. Now I have a plan on what I want to put Death Shadow on if Plague Stinger survives. If not, I still have Buried Alive as a backup plan. So he draws 2 cards and discards 3 cards. Alright, what's happening? We're just lagging a bit. Yep. So he puts Wonder in his graveyard, and it's 10-10, and a 4-4 that can do a bunch of things, which is a pretty good target for a Mimeoplasm. Okay, so okay, I'm lagging again. Really? Okay, and he puts Sensei's Divining Top down on his turn. So on my turn, I have enough mana that I can eventually Varolz and then put the counters on my Infect guy with Death Shadow. So I want to slow him down purely so I can get the extra land drop. So I Beast Within his breeding pool. He gets a guy. Now he's at 0 mana on his turn 3. But when he's filtering 3 cards a turn, it's not too bad. It's not the end of the world for him because he can just find his mana. So he attacks eventually. Okay, so I drop Varolz here. Now, once again, I decline to put Death Shadow in his graveyard because I don't want him to find an answer. On his next turn, he could theoretically filter through 3, 4, 5 cards, so he could find an answer. He also has 3 cards in his hand, so that's 8 cards that I have to be aware of. And he's already seen what my deck can do, so I imagine that he's on the, in his mind, he would be on the defensive. And this I didn't want to see. He Vampiric Tutors. My Urborg made his Bazaar of Baghdad a swamp, so he has 2 mana at this point. And he goes for Victimize. Now, I don't know if that's what he tutored for. If I were him, I probably would have tutored for Trick Bind because he can see what my general can do, or even Toxic Deluge because it's eliminating a big threat on the board. So I think he got a little greedy here. I mean, you can't fault him for wanting to draw 10 cards with Prime Speaker and Doom Gape, and also having 2 10-10s on the battlefield. But he doesn't know that I have the combo piece in my hand. So I think yeah, I think that was a little greedy. So I play my Death Shadow, and even if it got countered by Force of Will, for example, I wouldn't really care because it goes to the graveyard. I scavenge it, put it on my Infect guy, and then I attack for the win. And that's the game. So once again, Teranos, great player. These are some great competitive games that can show the real power of Varolz and how he can thrive on low mana. And also how, although it's a scavenge deck, he doesn't rely on the graveyard in a sorcery-based way. It's put something in, take something out right away. So it's a lot of fun to play. Hope you enjoyed the video.